Hey people, so I had my last exam on the Wednesday just gone, and thankfully it is actually starting to warm up out here just enough where it's not sort of unbearable out here. Now, as I promised, I will be showing you my table saw today, but however, just before that I thought I'd quickly show you these wood turning tools which I picked up recently. Wood turning tools seem to be expensive whatever way you cut it, to be honest, and these are just a couple of chisels which I picked up from rutlands.co.uk. Now, I'm not particularly endorsing rutlands.co.uk, although their service and everything seemed to be pretty good when I did order them. I'm just noting the fact that these tools which I did pick up actually didn't cost all that much to buy. Now, this 1.5 inch roughing gouge you'd be pressed to buy anywhere else for less than about 40, maybe 45 pounds, and I actually managed to get this for about 17 pounds. Now, this is a Dakota brand wood turning chisel, and I haven't heard much about Dakota tools, to be honest, but on first impression I've had a quick go with this roughing gouge and it's performed pretty as well as I need it to, really. It's holding its edge quite well, so I'm pretty happy with that, and as I say, for the price it's pretty darn good. Now, the surface finish on the handles is actually pretty poor, and actually it reminds me very much of the finishes I used to do on the lathe when I first started out wood turning, so there we go. But yeah, as I say, these were pretty darn cheap in comparison to a lot of the other sort of Crown wood turning tools and other people like that. So if you are looking to get some wood turning chisels, I would suggest heading over to there. They seem to be pretty well priced. And also, by the way, if you're looking to get a chuck for the lathe, they're also doing seem to have a sale on wood turning stuff at the moment. It was about £70 for a chuck kit, and that's pretty good. Wherever you look, you're not going to get much better than £70 for a chuck. It's just a fact, chucks seem to be pretty expensive. I didn't buy one because the thread on my lathe is too big for the ones they're selling, but they were selling the other standard size threads, so now I can move on with the table saw. So just before I go ahead and give you a quick look around the new saw, I thought I would actually explain the story, I suppose, which led up to me buying the new saw. Now, the old saw I did actually use for a fair amount of time, and I did get quite a bit of use out of it. I certainly was able to make it work for me, but I was never particularly happy with it, and for the last couple of years I have sort of been on and off looking for new saws, and every time I sort of decide either the saw that I really want is just too much money, or the sort of slightly lower saws which look fairly reasonable are sort of at a good price, but they're sort of, I knew if I bought them I would always want a bit more than what I'd actually purchased. So when it got to the stage again that I was looking around again for a new saw, this saw just seemed to make the most sense, and it sort of really did provide everything that I kind of wanted from the saw, and it did seem to be a fairly reasonable price in comparison to all the other saws which I'd sort of searched around for the main suppliers in the UK. This seemed to be the best priced and provided what I really wanted from a saw, so I decided to bite the bullet, I suppose, and I just went ahead and spent a crap load of money on a new saw. So I won't be doing an actual review of this table saw. I will just be telling you what I like about this saw and what I think could be improved. I'm not really, I suppose, a tool person. I have the tools which I bought, and so I don't have that much experience with other tools which I haven't purchased, so I'm not really in a position to be judging the quality of this saw. As I say, I'll just be showing you what I like about the saw and where I think it could be improved. Right, here we go. So I thought I'd actually start off by mentioning that you can in fact buy a sort of sliding table kit which will fit on the end of the saw. I didn't buy it because, as you can see here, the space left here is actually already tight enough, so I wouldn't have had space for it, and the hope is that I will make a small extension here just for my router table to do a bit of router work. So as far as what does the saw really need to do, what does it need to do? It needs to have a good solid fence, and this does. This nice slide and just locks really tightly into place. It seems to be fairly square as far as I can tell, and obviously I can make adjustments to that if I want to. This is not one of the Biesmeier style fences. Those seem to be pretty unheard of, and I probably did actually just say that wrong, but you know what I mean anyway, guys. But yeah, so this is not one of those types of fences. They seem to be pretty much unheard of in the UK, but this fence does lock down at the back, and which makes for sort of a very solid fence. And it also does seem to have these T-tracks, which obviously means I can fit some jigs onto the fence at some point if I need to, so that's kind of useful as well. So the cast iron tables do obviously make it very sort of heavy, I suppose, and makes sort of nice and solid. So in conjunction with a sort of nice solid fence, it does result in some nice clean cuts. From what the cuts that I've made so far, everything seems to be really nice and clean and pretty accurate, certainly from the test cuts which I've made. So if I take a look, if I pull out the insert, we could take a look down in here. I think I'm going to have to, there we go, the camera's just about brightened up here. You can just about see the dust chute, which is very handy. This seems to take care of most of the dust in here, which is very useful. However, and this is actually one of my only real problems with the saw, is this. In fact, as much as I like having this dust chute, it is also a right pain in the arse. If I come down in here, you can just about see the nut which holds the blade, and even for my very small hands, it is an absolute pain trying to get that on there. Because this is so tight, it makes it very difficult to tighten that up, and I'm pretty sure that when I get round to it, and when I make a sort of little jig, I suppose just a hold, or sort of I suppose a wooden spanner or something will do, just to hold that nut on there while I get it down in there, and once I've got it sort of twisted on a couple of times, I can take that off, and that'll sort out that problem. But the fact that that is a problem was actually quite a surprise to me. I don't know, I have no idea how someone with bigger hands than mine could ever get that nut back on there. Right, as I say, that was my only real qualm with the saw actually. I've made some zero clearance inserts. If you watched my video on the main channel last week, you'll know that I made some zero clearance inserts for what is a very shallow slot for the throat plate, and this was something that I knew when I bought the saw. It's the case with most saws in the UK, and of course most contractor saws, so I knew this was going to be the case, and obviously making these inserts has sort of resolved that other small issue. Now these handles are actually made out of plastic. Now having them out of plastic is actually a very sort of robust plastic, really not a problem at all if I'm honest, but it would have been nice to have them made out of metal. But I knew that was again something that I knew when I bought it. It was kind of a toss-up, I suppose. I knew that it had plastic handles, and I decided that really isn't the biggest issue in the world, but for the sake of quality it would have been nice to have seen some sort of metal handles, but really that just would have been a luxury more than anything. Right, otherwise in terms of actually their function, they are very smooth indeed. It really just travels really nice and smoothly, sort of no movement in the saw, and it does lock down very tight. Right, so also related to the saw, I thought I would quickly show you the featherboard which I made. Now, this wasn't enough to really make an actual video about, but I thought I'd quickly mention this just to help some of you guys out. I've just made some tiny little T-shaped things to fit in the T-slots, and into which I've just pressed a little coach bolt. That way I can attach one of these commercial featherboards, because instead of making one, I have these around the shop, so why not make use of them? So that way, using that, I can just attach this to the saw very easily, to be honest. So yeah, just a quick thing for you there. Right, I think that's pretty much all I've got to say about the saw. Yep. Right, so there we go, there's just a quick look at my new table saw. So I hope this has helped a couple of you guys out. I know that some of you are actually in the market for a new sort of decent table saw, and as far as I'm concerned, I don't think you could get much more table saw, particularly in the UK, for this sort of money. I think you'd have to spend a heck of a lot more money, sort of 2-3 times as much, to get a saw which is as good as this, and if not any better. So there we go. Right, thanks for watching guys, I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.